Hello again, friends and fellow truth seekers. Mike Nicholas here. This is another episode of the Soul Unleashed podcast. This is a short version, the Tuesday version. And as always, my goal is to help you with questions you might have regarding the unleashing of or awakening of your soul. And I also want to help left brain types like I am ask the right questions as we go through this process. So today I want to talk about something that has to do with children. And it's really just a question that I want to pose. It's going to be a brief podcast, as I mentioned, but I was talking with my grandchildren, whom I love to death, and I just noticed talking to them that their concept of God and religion is, of course, as it should be, I guess, very different from mine, and maybe some of you as you're growing up. So when I was growing up, it was important to my parents and my grandparents and whatever that I learn to know God and to love God and to know Jesus and to love Jesus. And, you know, it's probably debatable how successful they were doing that with me. But the point is that I had a frame of reference. I had a very specific way that I was taught and a very specific view that they communicated to me about who God is, who Jesus is, and about my faith, my religion. That perspective is something that my grandchildren do not have. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but it got me thinking about this whole Soul Unleashed process and people that are into what I am into, which is experiencing things that are beyond, in my humble opinion, beyond religion. It's spirituality. And so I'm less inclined to be tied to Catholicism than I am to understanding more about how the nature of reality works and how our soul works and things that are beyond what I was certainly taught and what I grew up with. Is it important, I guess, is the question. Is it important that children get some type of grounding, get some type of belief basis or a firm foundation, I guess, in some type of faith from which they can then explore as they get older? I guess that's what I'm kind of concerned about. You know, I think the children can pretty easily understand and accept the basic concepts of things like God being the Father and Jesus being the Son, Mary being the mother, Jesus being born in a manger. Those kind of things are family-based and obviously something that they're familiar with and can form an understanding around. But when you start to talk to them, and I don't do this, okay, but I mean, if you were to skip that part and jump right into eternity, and that our souls come here many times, and that our souls choose to be here, and that you chose the life that you're living, and your thoughts become things, and you can manifest your life. Those are like graduate level concepts, right? Children obviously don't understand that kind of thing. So I think they need to have a basis about God, and if it's taught as God the Father and the Son and the Trinity, or God as a monotheistic type of theory or person, whatever it is, they need to have some type of understanding. And then later, as they're growing up and their mind matures and their understanding matures, they can compare what they're hearing against what they've learned. Some people never escape what they've learned. That's why I talk about in this podcast, breaking out of the paradigms. I had to break out of the paradigm that I grew up with that limited my understanding. But I just think that children need to have some type of understanding initially, and not to hit them with all these other New Age concepts, if you will. I'm not crazy about that term, but New Age type thoughts or ways of looking at things is a bit much for young children. Even though I'm going through this myself, I'm thinking that, hey, I'm glad that I grew up like I did. I grew up like I did, where I learned about God and learned about Jesus, and okay, I've got that frame of reference. I got that. Now I'm learning about other religions and about other theories and other concepts, but I had a pretty strong base to start with. And my question for you to think about is, what do we do with children? Do they just kind of grow up ungrounded or untethered, or is that good or bad? My inclination right now is to think that it's probably important that children get a firm foundation from their parents in whatever their religion is, and that they come to know that there's a higher power at least, and that higher power has a personal relationship with them, then they start exploring maybe when they get older and they understand those other things out there. Otherwise, I don't know where they start as they get older. There's probably tons of books written about this somewhere. I don't know where they are. I'll probably go looking for them. But this question just came up just in the past couple of days. And just talking about these kind of things and about God with children, like I said, my children, my grandchildren whom I love to death, it's just different about what their perspective is and what the relationship is with God and with Jesus. And honestly, it's none of my business, right? What their parents decide to teach them or how they decide to raise them. All I can do is help when needed or help when asked to help. But it's not my place to. It's my place to influence, but primarily through good example, not by directive or diktat. So that's kind of been my approach. But my son and my daughter-in-law know that I'm going through this experience, and that I'm believing some things that are pretty much out there, or at least that I always used to think were out there. Some things I'm sure they still think are off the wall. Like reincarnation and soul journeys and past life regressions and in between lives kind of thing. All that is, for me, fascinating and believable. But I don't know if you can jump into that without having some type of solid basis to start with before you start experimenting and going off on those tangents. So that's just my thought for today and my thought for this podcast. I am about to embark on a trip. I'm going to the country of Lebanon, which is absolutely beautiful and mysterious and ancient. And it's a place that I love to visit, not only for the people, but for the places that are there. And for some reason, I'm drawn to that part of the world. That's probably another podcast. But I had planned to, sometimes when people do podcasts like this, they stack them or they do them in advance. So I thought about doing that, doing my podcast for Thursday and doing my podcast for next Tuesday and the following Thursday, all the times that I'll be gone. But what I really want to do is do the podcast from Lebanon or from that part of the world. So we'll see how that works. It won't be as slickly produced. It won't have the same production values that I normally produce it with. I use a kind of a board to do it here. But I'll do it on the road, and I'll get it up, and hopefully it will be something that you'll find interesting. But thank you for listening. I just wanted to hit you with that one thought about children. I'll do some research on my own and maybe do another podcast about this, because I'm all in on the new age type stuff, if you will, but I'm not necessarily all in on children embarking on that adventure without some type of base to start from. So thanks again. I appreciate it. As always, you can reach me at mikenicholas.com or mike@mikenicholas.com. I love your comments. Thank you. And also, of course, I really, really appreciate a rating if you go to wherever you get your podcast from and just leave me a rating. I appreciate that. Thanks again, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.